Hello and welcome to episode 156 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering. In particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That's right, and we also have a big tournament to talk about. No, it's not the one that we did a couple weeks ago. We talked about that last week. This is a different tournament, probably more important to more
A
people.
little bigger. A
Yeah,
little
just
bigger.
just a little bit. It is Pro Tour Outlaws of Thunder Junction happened this last weekend, so we want to dive into that as well as some other things that have been happening in the Magic world. But first, each week we drink a beer. We rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what is on tap?
All right. This one, we have a classic brewery on the Arena regulars here. This is Muskoka. We've had plenty of their stuff.
Hmm.
And this is a hazy pale ale they make called Drifter, but in a nitro version.
Oh,
Ooh. So we actually have done Drifter on the show before, but it was quite a while ago, like over a year ago.
yeah.
And Zach asked me if I wanted him to remind me of what we rated it, like go check the old ratings and remind ourselves what we rated it. And I was like, no. So we have a prime opportunity for me to make a fool of myself where I rate it completely differently than I did last time. But it is worth noting I'm slightly absolved because last time was not Nitro, and this
It's
time
true.
it is Nitro, which
Yeah,
is going to change everything
it easily could because
or
Nitro.
nothing, depending on how my rating lines up with the
I guess
previous
that's
one.
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Nitro does, in my mind, make everything better. So,
Agreed. If it's not better, that's what I'm nervous about, that I'm going to rate it worse somehow, and that's going to shake my whole understanding of Nitro and beer.
well, I'm very excited now because I do know well both of our ratings from last year.
Oh
So,
boy.
yeah. Sweet. So this beer is 5.6%, exactly the type of percentage that we're looking for these days as we get into these beers. All right, Jeff. Let's open it up.
Okay,
Sorry, what
but
are you gonna
before
say?
you do, did you read the back?
Oh no, of course I didn't.
It says, don't forget to gently shake and pour hard, as this brew is infused with nitrogen for an extra smooth ride.
All right, Jeff. Do you
And
remember
it
the
has
last?
little instructions. I
I
don't know if you
know,
can see that, but
I know it has instru. Okay, I did see this when I bought it. Jeff, do you remember what happened last time we had a stout and the guy told me to shake the beer and
yes.
pour hard
Yeah.
and it exploded everywhere and it was terrible?
But this says gently shake.
Okay. What does that mean? Is
So,
this
well,
this
look
is a
look at the
gent
diagram. You can tell
well,
by the diagram
it looks
how
like this. This
yeah,
is this a
all
gentle
right.
shake?
That's a
Okay.
gentle shake.
This is my gentle shake.
I'm
Okay,
doing it more
perfect.
like a shake weight.
Ugh, I
So
don't like that very much. The diagram goes like this, Jeff. It doesn't go like this.
there's no proof of that. You're
I can.
inferring based on the shake lines coming off the can, but there's no hand holding it.
That's true. Anyway, whatever. Let's pour this hard.
I'm gonna keep doing it this way.
Oh God. Anyway, let's go. Alrighty.
Whoa!
Is yours going?
It
I'm,
almost came out the can.
I'm pouring it
Uh-oh.
hard. I feel
Uh-oh.
like this was a bad.
Oh no!
Never ever listen to the can when it tells you to pour it hard.
We
It's
obviously shaked it too vigorously.
no, your shaking was bad. Mine's better than yours. So
That's true. Yeah, the shake weight
anyway,
effect was not
if you want to
successful.
see how we were doing any of that, go to our YouTube channel. It's Arena Regulars as we were pouring this beer.
Yeah.
Fantastic radio, Jeff. Let's get into our magic news. The Pro Tour obviously was this last weekend. I don't know. Do we want to spoil the winner? Should we just like slow roll it? Everyone kind of knows, right? Some people do.
Most people who are interested in knowing already
Already
know,
know. Well, we can slow
but
roll it.
but
Just
not all. So let's
yeah,
slow roll it for the folks
yeah,
who
for sure, for sure. So I just wanted to say that this Pro Tour was awesome. Like the
I loved
decks
it.
were crazy. It was so much fun. The top eight was nuts. Like it was a lot of fun. I thought that this was
Yeah.
like one of the better Pro Tours that we've had.
Yeah,
Um,
it's one of the ones I've watched more of than I have previously, and also was one of the better ones, and those two things line up, right? Like I watched more of
mhm.
it because I was like, this is a great pro tour. And
I was watching one of the matches of the top eight before we even started the episode tonight. Like that's how excited I was for this and like how great everything was. Um, I do want to say there was a bunch of different cool decks for this. So the tournament was Outlaws of Thunder Junction draft. So if you haven't watched a Pro Tour before, basically what happens is the Pro Tour players they play Friday, Saturday, and then the top eight is on Sunday. And both of those mornings on Friday and Saturday, you play draft, and then the rest of your matches are standard. And then you play 8 rounds each day, and then whoever gets to 12 wins basically goes to the top eight, and then so on and so forth. I thought that the smattering of decks was just just great. Obviously, there's a best deck, and that's always going to be the thing. Like there will always be a best deck in a tournament, and the one that's has the biggest metagame share. But the other ones were so interesting. Like ones that we hadn't seen, they were using new cards. Like it was really cool.
yeah, it was a great tournament. I think just looking at the top eight, there are what, let's see, six
Hmm.
legitimately different archetypes. No archetype put more than two
Hmm.
copies. And it's not, oh, there's Esper mid-range, and then there's Demir mid-range, and then
Hmm.
there's Orzhov mid-range, and you're like, okay, well, that's not real diversity.
Yeah.
This is real diversity. Like this is everything from aggro to like hard control to with like ramps in there to some mid-range. There's combo. It literally
Hmm.
just has everything. So
Literally everything. Like
it just goes to show what a great standard environment this is, to be honest.
it's
That
ex-
you can win with whatever you want. Whatever you enjoy playing,
yeah.
you can play it.
It's like so healthy. So the top eight, what Jeff was alluding to, we have Domain Ramp, which is a deck we know very well with Traxa up at the top. Teamer Analyst, which is the lands deck that is actually a blast. It's so much fun. Though I do want to say, watching it in paper looked. I would never want to play it in paper. It looked really hard to pilot. Uh,
Yeah. We take arena for granted, and it's when you see stuff like this that you're like, honestly, even like watching Esper mid-range, or when I went to that paper event and played
mhm,
against it, it's like there's so much to do. There's like
mhm.
everything creates a new token.
That you have to
So,
like
and
bring
there's so many
over.
triggers on end step and Raffine triggers, and like
Mhm,
there's just so many things you're constantly doing
mhm.
that I just take arena for granted on some of this stuff because I'm like, when you play paper, you're like, I wonder if they should be giving us more time just for the sheer number of things that need to be
Yes.
done in today's game relative to when 50 minutes was kind of the standard.
So I do want to I want to pick up that point that you just said. If we need more time in the whole round, I want to get back to it. I just want to talk about the rest of the top eight decks first, but that is
Mhm.
an important point. Um, so anyway, we had Teamer Analyst, Esper mid range, which we all know, Boros Convoke as we've seen, Azorius Control, as well as Four Color Legends. And the Four Color Legends deck, that's the Slowgurk deck if you've seen it.
Mhm.
It's picked up in popularity because of this tournament, and it's a lot. It's one of like the. It's stronger than it has been before. It feels like. Um,
Yeah.
I
I
think that.
think Four Color Legends was it was the one of the best performing decks of the tournament.
Mhm.
It was kind of like one team brought it and they're all really good, so they all
Yeah,
finished really high. That kind of effect. So it's like, I don't know how real it is. Um,
it also
but
seems really complicated to play and hard
yeah,
to
it's definitely
navigate.
not easy. There's like what is it, a 7 card combo in it or something, or a
Yeah,
6 card
something
combo?
crazy
Yeah.
that like it all just kind of snowballs in on each other because you can play Rona and uh, Relic of Legends. So Relic of Legends is like a mana rock that lets you tap legends for mana, and Rona untaps whenever you cast a legend. And so then
Yeah.
there's these other things that let you like. You have what's her face that lets you look at the top of your library and you can play cards off the top of it, and you kind of do all these different things. So it gets like you snowball into this effect where you're kind of mana neutral as you're playing different things and like untapping your creatures to play more stuff, and it's it's a it's crazy. It's a crazy take. Um, oh man. And like there's a lot of like Slogurk stuff where you're like looping Otawara to bounce all of their stuff at end
Yeah.
step, and then you get to replay everything, and your opponent's it looks like your opponent is tapped out, but really they have like 5 mana because all their creatures are untapped. And so then they tap them to do stuff, and then discard lands to get counters on Slogurk to then get the lands back, and then it's just
And the channel lands are unreal in the deck because you have so many legendary permanents. They're all
yeah,
essentially
one
one
mana.
mana.
So it's they all say like tap a creature, discard this. Then you have
Yeah.
ET on the battlefield, which then lets you exile the top of your library to play next turn, and
Yeah. It's it's a,
it's a cool deck.
it was fun to watch, and I never once was like, I want to pick that up and go pilot it because I was
I
just like, you know what? It looks good. You're making it look great, but it's not my style, and it's a lot to keep track of.
It's a
So
lot. I think Arena would help me a lot. I would play it on Arena.
yeah,
I would not play this in paper.
yeah, for sure.
Though one deck I would want to play in paper if I could. Um, there is a really cool deck that came out of this, and everyone's talking about it. I hope you know. It's named after the best NFL football team. Uh,
Oh dear God.
the
I didn't know there was a bristling bill deck in this tournament. Bristly bill.
no. We're talking about Orzov Bronco, of course, for the Denver Broncos. Um, oh God. Anyway, um, so this deck is white and black. It's using the Snake Horse card, Caustic Bronco, which when you attack with it, you get to like bob the top of your deck. So you look at you can get to draw the top card, and you lose life equal to its mana value. But if you saddled the Caustic Bronco, then your opponent loses that life instead. So the whole combo of the deck is that you're trying to set the top card of your library to be uh, Shadow of Mortality, which is
Hmm.
the 15 mana value creature that costs less depending on how much life you've lost this game. Um, and then you just get to dome your opponent for 15, which is so much fun. It's so much
Yeah,
fun.
on a card you would otherwise play anyways, so it's not like very similar to the combo that we mentioned in the Four Color Legends deck. It's not like you need to combo to win. You're just a
No.
functional deck, like kind of mid-range. You
Mm-hmm.
can beat down. This deck's a little more aggro oriented
Yep.
than the Four Color Legends one is, but you're just happy playing like a just a semi-aggressive mid-range game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the oops, you take 15, I win.
And I'm still
Like,
attacking you. Yeah.
yeah,
There's a lot of times like your opponent's tapped out and you're like, they're at 17 and you're like, hit you for 15. The Bronco hits you for 2 and you lose.
yeah, yeah.
Like, that's, it's a lot of fun. It uses the new, obviously the Caustic Bronco, but then like that, the shit, what's that card called? The black one that puts either it vampiric tutors a card to the top of your library, or you draw 3 cards, or both.
Yeah. It's
It's something avarice. Um,
oh yeah, it is something avarice.
but
Insatiable? Something like that.
yeah, that sounds right. Insatiable avarice. But anyway, that's the way that you can guarantee the combo all the time. So that ends up helping out a lot. I've played it on Arena. I was streaming it just because I wanted to stream some of the Pro Tour decks, and that one was a blast. Once you're just like getting into it, because a bunch of your creatures just have 3 power, so they end up just beating down anyway
Yeah, exactly.
because it costs 3 to
Yeah,
saddle
it
the
is
Bronco. So
insatiable avarice.
yeah.
This deck, by the way, these players that brought it, I think there were two players that brought it, and
Hmm.
they qualified out of Ottawa, I believe. So
Oh,
they're like the Ottawa team face to face kind of
oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Kind of local-ish to us. Um, that's nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I was wondering if I'd recognize them, and then when I went and liked it, I was like, nope, never
Nope.
seen these people before in my life.
Shoot.
But maybe they weren't playing like a decade ago when I was in Ottawa, or
That's true. Maybe. Yikes.
uh, maybe longer than that. But
Woof. A decade. Yikes. Whenever you have to say that, it feels so
I know,
long.
right?
But oh well. Um, the other deck that people have been looking at and talking about is Brian Kibler's deck, which
Didn't
is
even know Brian Kibler played in this event.
he did. He did well enough, but obviously not making it to the top eight. He was playing a deck that he just kind of made himself. I don't think anyone else was playing it. And instead of a four color legends deck, he decided he wanted to go for five color legends. Um,
Oh, like a Joda thing.
yes, exactly. It is a Joda thing. So
Uh-huh.
I thought maybe I would mention that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you may have picked Joda as a worth a slot
Yes.
last year. So I just wanted to give you that. I
I
know
appreciate it.
you
Oh.
usually pick that up, but I believe that Joda was your half court shot from Dominaria United. So
Well,
you
I
did make it
predicted
on the
this,
pro tour.
so yeah.
Totally, totally, totally. Um, I think that playing the five color Legends deck for me is more fun than playing the four color one because it hits a lot harder.
Mm.
Because all you have to do is like slam a Joda and then you attack for like a million. And
Yeah, so
it's
I've seen I think I've seen rumblings of this on Reddit. Like on Reddit, there was just people who post, oh, five color legendary humans.
mhm,
I've read some topics about it and it resurfaces every once in a while. So I don't know if Brian took inspiration from those posts or just also had the same idea and did a more streamlined version. But
possibly both. Yeah.
from I never played it with or against it, but just from like reading those discussions, it almost seemed like it was a five color aggro deck. And I was like, I want to go build this because that sounds dope. But then I imported what they were running into my collection, and the wild cards I would have had to spend on it was like new, 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 new. I don't own any of these cards for some reason. Like,
Yeah, I luckily did own almost all of them. I think
nice.
I might have had to use like eight wild cards, but over
Oh,
the
that would have
whole
been
deck,
fine. This
yeah.
was like you're looking at 10 mythics or 12 mythics
Oh
or some
yeah.
14 mythics and then like 20 rares. I was like, no,
No, I
not
can't play this.
not for something
Um,
I just like saw on Reddit.
yeah, I want to try.
Yeah.
It is a blast though. So Brian Kibler's list was also using not only Joda but Juru and Hazaret, which
Hmm.
is from like March of the Machine, and that is another card that cares about other legends. So Joda is the five color one where you cast legends, then you get to look for more legends off the top of your deck. Juru and Hazaret, as long as you only have one card in your hand, it has haste and vigilance. And then when you attack, you get to get the next legend off the top and you get to play it for free that turn. So they both have similar kind of vibes, like at the top end of like, hey, get more legends. And together, it's just like they pump each other up, and then you just get to play legends for free, which you're just doming your opponent for even more. It's a blast. Um, Lots of fun, and the mana base is actually pretty good because everything's a creature and everything's a human, just about, except for Sigardus and Angel. And
And Plaza of Heroes freaking busted in this deck.
well, you're playing Plaza of Heroes, you're playing
Cavern,
Secluded Courtyard, and you're playing Cavern of Souls.
right?
So you have
Yeah.
12 five color untapped lands, and you're
Hmm.
like, okay, that my mana is like almost perfect. The only times you have to run into mana issues is if you're trying to channel some of your lands, and you actually have to spend the actual color, and you're like, oh shit, okay, some of these.
Yeah, wait a
Wait, shit,
minute.
Cavern
None
doesn't
of my
tap for
lands
that.
actually tap
Yeah,
for
for
this color.
colors, yeah. So that's pretty funny, but it's a good time. So if you have the wild cards, I highly recommend it. Good, fun deck. Five color legends.
Yeah. I think, speaking of some decks that we saw, I was just like, I don't know if this was ever on camera or because I didn't watch all of the standard. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
did. I watched the limited and then some of the standard, and then I jumped to the top eight. But Reed Duke did pretty well in this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what he was playing?
He was playing Golgari mid range, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have known nothing about the tournament. I give you a guess. You're likely to guess correctly. He was playing
Yeah,
Golgari mid range, but his deck is also playing Caustic Bronco. And I think it's just like trying to just do it bears, just like for real. Like I
just
have
like
some big cards in my deck. Sometimes I'm just gonna flip them and get you. Like, but otherwise, this is just a good card, and I want to like it's just a bob kind of
yeah,
thing
I
that
love
like
that.
nugs you instead most of the time.
Yeah,
And I was like, you know what? I could get behind this, Reed. I could get behind this. Um, I'm trying to think like, does he have? I don't know if he has any actual like combos with it. He's just playing it. Just
he's just
playing
playing
three
the
Caustic Bronco main.
and just like nugging him for like 3 and 4 every once in a while. Sometimes zero because you get a land.
Yeah, but I mean, you're the one drawing the card, right? So it's like it's not the end
For
of the
sure.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the worst.
Yeah, I guess the most he can do is five with Gix's command.
That's funny. I do
Um,
like that. Like I just like that.
yeah. It's just a list. Yeah, it's such a read list too. Like you could see he just couldn't bring himself to not play Liliana of the Veil in the main deck,
Hmm.
so one Liliana of the Veil main. Uh, but yes, just your typical sort of Mosswood Dread Knight build where you did quite well with it. And this makes me kind of want to build, we talked about it a little while ago, but a more like a really low to the ground Golgari version
Hmm.
where it's like you have one drops and then the problem was you didn't have more than like Mosswood Dread Knight was the only really good two drop that you wanted to play. So
Hmm.
now I'm thinking, well, I know the Broncos only going to nug them for two or three or four, like at most four in this low to the ground deck. But now we have that two drop that we're excited to play, and it refuels our hand for our aggro
That's true.
sort of sensibilities. So I'm kind of wondering if there is sort of this Golgari, not really aggro, but Golgari like lean mid range kind of deal.
Yeah, lower to the
That
ground. Because the one thing about the like Orzhov Bronco list where you're playing Shadow and all that is that you don't you want to know what's on the top of your deck. You don't want to hit yourself for 15 because it is
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah.
And like you're only playing two of the shadows in your deck because the other things you're just trying to just set it up on the turn you want to hit your opponent. But like there are turns where you're like, well, I want to draw a card, but if it is a shadow of mortality, I don't
I
know. I
probably shouldn't.
probably shouldn't. But yeah, if you just think of it as like a two drop that draws you cards, that's probably fine. Um, it does not do well in combat though, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, I think the idea here is like you're such a removal heavy deck and
mhm,
you're just getting in with
that's
like
true.
it's Bronco, kill your blocker attack, kill your blocker attack, kill your blocker
Hmm.
attack, and keep the fuel running. Um,
Yeah, you can play tiny
and
bones in that and some other things. I like it.
yeah, yeah,
I can see something. I like the idea of just like your opponent thinking that there might be some sort of combo and you're like just attacking with it. And so they're trying to stop you from saddling it. And you're like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just
yep.
attacking.
It's not the plan.
That's not the plan.
Or you just throw in like one shadow because sometimes you'll get them, sometimes it'll get me. It's
No,
just
I,
it's
I
just
hate that. I
it's
hate it
just
so
Russian
much.
roulette.
No, just one bullet in the chamber.
Yeah.
Who knows? No, I don't like that at all. That sounds so scary. Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Um,
Caustic Bronco making waves at the Pro Tour.
yeah, super sick card. We definitely didn't talk about it in our first sips. Shoot, missed opportunity.
But yeah, the great tournament overall. I guess we haven't. Is this enough time to have delayed on the winner and winning deck of the event?
It is, but before we get to that, we do have to pick up how long some of these matches took
Oh, right. Yeah, you did want to get back
because
to that.
this was not just like, oh, there was some matches like there were so many draws, and people were talking about this a lot. Like Shota Yasaoka had two draws in the tournament,
Oh, he's
and
like the fastest player I've ever seen.
he's notoriously the fastest player.
Yeah.
And so this was something that was bringing up legitimate concern by people being like, "Wait, do people just not have enough time to play? Like, is that just what's going on? Because all the decks are so complicated and there's so many, like you said, all the different tokens, all the different counters, all the things you have to move around and do that aren't just like cards in your deck, like extra tidbits or
I kind of
random
think that's
stuff."
what it is because I felt that after going in and playing in paper,
Hmm.
and my deck was not particularly complicated, but it was still a lot
Yeah.
relative to what I'm used to. And there's different zones for everything. There's multiple zones where things go to.
Yeah.
There's like an adventure zone, and then there's you
Exiled, but
know,
you can still play zone, and yeah.
right, and some things are until end of turn, and some things aren't, and it's just like a lot to keep track of and to be constantly like manipulating.
Yeah.
And then you stack on top of that the fact that there's a lot of shuffling and there's a lot of, like the typical things that
Hmm.
lose you time in paper. And it just felt like, I was coming closer to limit in a lot of my matches than I remember doing. And I had like even less time between rounds than I used to.
Hmm.
And I was playing what was essentially an aggro deck. Like I was essentially playing Rakdos aggro
Yeah.
that people brought to this tournament, but a different version of it. And sometimes I'd play against mono red and it'd be like, that took half an hour. Like, what the fuck? Like, we're both aggro decks. And this game should have been done in like 10 minutes,
Or
like
what
this
you're
match. Yeah.
or what you're used to, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's
On
the
Arena
question.
would have been like 6 minutes that match.
Yeah, totally. Just because everything happens so quickly. Um, so like, do we need more than 50 minutes for a round? Like, is 50 just not enough? Is like the question people have been talking about. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's time to really change it just yet, but I mean, if the fastest players are getting draws, like that's just
Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure Shota played Azorius, right?
sure. Okay,
So
that also
Azorius is
makes sense.
prone to control in this format, or
Hmm.
he's
Uh,
prone to draw,
yeah, control is prone to draw. Yeah.
like a
Um,
hard control deck like that, because it really is light on win cons.
mhm.
So
So you're kind of just looking for them. Um, but as far as like long matches go, in the quarterfinals, there was a, a match that was like 2 hours long. The video is like 2.5 hours.
yeah,
It's so
is that the one
long.
with like Arna, and the first game was an hour or something? It's like,
I was just thinking about the one with Yoshihiko Ikawa and Sean Goddard, but
oh yeah,
I
that
think all of
one.
them were long. But that entire match was so long. Um, but like
Yeah, that's a long matchup for sure.
because
That
they
was
were
like the first one, right?
that was the first one,
Yeah,
and
okay.
it was
That one
like
took
over two
forever. I
hours.
remember that.
Yeah.
I actually remember that because I was like, okay, I just want to see the result of this. Once this is over, I'm gonna go, do this
Do some
thing I was
stuff.
planning on doing. And I was just like, oh my God, it's just never going to end. Yeah.
It is the best. It's the craziest match of the weekend and the best one. If you're gonna watch any match from the entire tournament, I
Yeah.
think you should go back and watch that. This is the one I was watching again today before we did the episode.
Oh yeah, it was a great match.
Yeah. So Yoshihiko Ikawa is playing Domain Ramp, and Sean Goddard is playing Teamer Analyst. And basically, Sean goes up 2 games. He's 2-0 against Yoshihiko, and those are both the pre-sideboarded games. And of course, in the top 8, they always do
Best of
first to
five.
3. Yeah,
Yeah.
first to 3 of 5
True, because
games
there can be draws.
because that's what happened at our last our last pro
Yeah.
tour. They played
Right, right,
7 games.
right, right.
Um, but Yoshihiko ended up coming back and doing a reverse sweep of all 3 of the games that he had to win. He did and got to advance to the semis. But I just think that match was crazy. It was so good, even knowing the outcome. Because like, and going back and rewatching it, I was still like, "How did they get out of this? This is crazy." And like, nuts top decks. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, that was a good one. No, at first I thought you were just talking about the like Arna versus Lucas Esper
Mm.
mid-range mirror match where I don't think they showed the first game. They just commented that it took an hour. And so they were on game two or something.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's like that's so insane that like that would happen. That's one game. That's like the entire time that you have. Like in the top eight, you have unlimited time. But in just like a regular round, you drew. You played you not even one game and you drew.
Yeah. And in the top eight, there were multiple nudges from the judges to play faster. Like I've never seen that many in the top eight of a pro tour. Normally it's like maybe once it'll happen
Mm-hmm.
in the top eight of a pro tour when there's a really tough decision that someone's tanking on. They'll give them a nudge that like, hey, you have to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
This was like this happened
All over the place.
all over the place. Like I don't know if it was every match, but it felt like it was every match that was happening at least once.
Because they were just trying to make sure that they could get to the next game. They're like, we have to
Yeah.
show the rest of the top eight. This is
Right. They're
crazy.
like, guys, this has been so long already.
Yeah.
And like the expectation is that you play at a reasonable pace, even though you don't have an official time limit.
Hmm.
And so the judge will ask you to speed up if you're going too slow. And
Of course.
if they have to remind you too many times, you'll get a warning and eventually it will escalate to you just lose. So
Hmm.
it's not unlimited. It's just like, okay, it should be don't worry about it unlimited, but like don't just sit there and tank because you're feeling sad.
Exactly, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so that's all. That's what I want to say about that. Would you like to do the honors of telling us who won the tournament and who they played against and the significance of this? I guess.
All right. So, winner of the tournament. Drum roll, please. It was Yoshihiko Ikawa after that great comeback in the quarterfinals. They won the whole event with their domain ramp deck, and they actually dominated pretty much the entire tournament. I think they lost one match.
Yeah.
They just like crushed this one. And in the finals, they played teammate Yuta Takahashi, who was on Azorius Control.
That was crazy. It was so cool to see both of them playing because they're just both speaking in Japanese to each other and they're
Yeah,
like they're friends and they've been playing together since they were like whatever. I think you just said like since they were 20 or maybe for 20 years. I couldn't really tell what he was exactly saying, but
right.
um I was like that's so cool. Just like you and your buddy who you've been playing forever against and you're like it's us, it's one of us is going to win. And the whole weekend Yoshihiko was just saying that he was going to win this one, like it was his time. Because he, yeah, like just like you said, he only dropped one game, or sorry, one match the whole tournament, and it was in draft, and so he
Yeah,
won every match of Domain Ramp.
yeah.
And I mean, I don't like Domain Ramp. I don't like the deck very much. I don't like Azorius Control very much either. But I liked watching that match, and I liked seeing them, so that was cool. Uh,
It was cool. Going in, I was like, oh, I don't know if Yoshihiko really has a chance in this matchup. It seems like, big dumb spells is
mhm.
not going to do well against counter spells. Watching the match play out, I was like, I don't know how Yuto wins this actually. Like
Yeah.
with Cavern of Souls and you know, just play it appropriately and eventually just overwhelm them because Yuta doesn't really have a way to get ahead. Just
Hmm.
kind of sits there and his plan is to eventually take over, but I don't know how he ever does. So,
Yeah, he just doesn't have anything big enough. All of the big threats that Yoshihiko has have vigilance, so his Wandering Emperor can't exile them. And
yeah.
exactly right. Like the entire match revolves around when you play, like when you Yoshihiko plays Cavern of Souls, and if Yuta has enough time to get rid of it with a demolition field or something.
Yeah. Really great match though,
So
and
cool.
they had another teammate in the top eight who was Takumi Matsura, who was
Yes.
on Boros Convoke,
Hell
the
yeah,
fist
buddy.
pump there. And I think it's just awesome that this Japanese team like completely dominated this tournament. They were number one, two, and three.
Hmm.
Um, and they had some other teammates who did extremely well as well. and they're all playing just completely different decks. So clearly the takeaway here is that these pro teams, now they didn't have a ton of time to test, so that
Hmm.
would change things because this was like I think less than a week from when the set officially released in paper to when they had to submit their deck lists.
Hmm.
Uh, so that does change things a bit. But I think the key takeaway here is like standard is in the place that a lot of old formats tend to find themselves in, where it's more important to know your deck really well than it is what exact archetype you're playing. So
Hmm.
you shouldn't play like domain ramp if you don't understand how to play the deck just because it won the Pro Tour and so it's the quote unquote best deck. You should pick whatever deck you know the best and like learn it well. And that's going to get you more success than like there just isn't really a strongest deck. So it's more about
Yeah.
knowing the matchups and understanding what role you play in the matchups, which is great because it means you just pick whatever kind of deck you really enjoy and just jam it and like learn how to beat the other decks because this is telling us that you can find ways to win with pretty much anything. Even
It's
Boros Convoke.
even more, but you
Surprisingly.
should watch some of Takumi's matches though, because he plays it a lot differently than you've been
Yes.
seeing on the arena ladder for sure.
I know you've heard Twitch chat tell you that it's a brainless deck and you just
Hmm.
vomit your hand and attack all and hope you win, but that's not how Takumi played it.
Yeah,
So
it turns out you don't have to play it that way,
you don't
and
have to.
it turns out you can win if you don't play it that way. Who knew? Uh, Team Japan did. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. It Twitch chat infuriates me so much sometimes. And this tournament, like of all the great things that happened, this tournament was the tournament to switch off Twitch chat and be like, just shut the fuck up. Just
That's enough. That's enough
that's
for
enough for
now.
me. Um,
I don't know
but
if you're allowed to say that as a Twitch streamer, but
turn Twitch chat off and tell them to shut the fuck up.
yeah.
Whatever. I it's fine. Um, I think it's just specifically also just the Pro Tour ones because people are not talking about the match. They're always talking about something dumb that's like talk about the
Yeah, or like complaining about something. They like tune in, see someone draw a good card, and just like start complaining
yeah,
about
they
the
tune
arena
in,
shuffler or something. Like what?
see that the players have pronouns beneath their names, and then they just
Yeah,
flip their lid, and you're like, this isn't even about Magic. Can you
yeah.
at
How
least
could this?
make the joke about the brain dead deck? Like, fine, you can do that. Like, it's annoying, but whatever. Just like
Yeah, how could this
anyway,
possibly bother you?
that's just my quick takeaway from that. But anyway, awesome tournament.
This tournament made me want to go play limited and standard. I was like, I
Did
don't know
you?
which one to play because I just want to go. I just want to go play both. Can I play both
Yeah,
right now?
I'm pretty sure Jason Yee, who's in the top eight, who played Four Color Legends, they were playing in the draft, and they got two archive traps and a Jace, and they were just milling people out.
I love
That
that.
was day one. That was the plan that they got past
That's
the
so
archive
great.
traps, and I was like, that is
And then you're
so
just like, come
cool.
on, like Snapcaster Mage, whatever that card's
Yeah,
called. Like, yeah, are we doing this? Are we
slick
going
shot
deep
lock
on
picker.
this?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Deep
cool.
Muck Desperado,
Yeah,
baby.
Desperados, baby. Oh, like that's the dream. That's the dream right
Yeah,
there.
oh man, I'm so envious of that.
That's that just
I would love it if that happened to me in like gold tier on Arena, like that'd be like, whoa, but at
holy
the pro
shit.
tour.
Like just like people just respecting these cards.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, like to be fair, you don't want that card unless you're in that deck, and so if you happen to be that deck, you're like, I
I'm
just
always tempted to take
scooping
it
him
every time
up.
I see it because I'm like, what if it happens? What if it happens?
Yeah. Uh, so exciting. Well, great tournament. Good stuff. It
Yeah.
made me pumped for Pro Tours, and then it made me really sad because the next Pro Tour is in June. That's
Mm,
Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3, and it's a modern tournament.
gonna be modern, yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But then after that, we don't have another Pro Tour until the World Championship in October. It's like we got front loaded all three Pro Tours for the year, and then and then we just don't have
Bummer.
one. So I've I don't know. Guess I just won't be watching the Pro Tour.
Well, you know what? It might be a great limited format, and so maybe you can watch that part.
Oh, no, no, no. Sorry. I'm still going to watch Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour. I'm saying after that one's done
Oh, and there's
from
just literally not one to
yeah, yeah,
watch.
from July
Yeah,
to October.
gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
that makes
I
sense.
I don't play Modern, but it's still kind of fun to watch. I don't really know all the cards and all the interactions, but it's still fun to watch Magic played at a high level, even if I have to learn what the decks do. I think that's fun.
And some of the cool stuff is like you'll know more of the cards just as a result of Timeless
That's
being a
true.
thing.
That's really true.
You won't know all of them, obviously, but like some of them will be like, oh yeah, I mean, I understand the feeling of your opponent going turn one Ragavan, and you
Yeah.
being like, I gotta do something.
Shit.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I'm I just like competitive Magic's fun to watch. It's so fun.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
With that, Jeff, in talking about Modern Horizons 3, something happened recently or has been happening, and we've been avoiding talking about it. But WOTC has addressed it, so now we must address it as well, as that is our job as podcast people. Um, Modern Horizons 3 is coming out in June, and a lot of the cards got leaked by
Wah, wah.
somebody, someone, somewhere, leaked a bunch of cards.
Yeah.
I don't like leaks. I just want to say this on the record. I think leaks are bad, okay? Leaks are bad. I don't enjoy them. I think that you should let the company release the spoilers when you can. We already have too many spoilers as it is. So leaks are just sooner spoilers, which it just bugs me. I don't like it.
I don't know if I agree. I mean,
Okay, give
leaks
me
are
your
just, I mean, leaks are just larger green onions, and green onions are great. So it's
Oh
good enough
God.
for far-fetched. It's good enough for me.
Oh, oh wow, bringing the Pokemon into it
Oh
too.
shit.
Oh
It's an
shit.
old school joke
It is
for you old folks out there
from
who still
the
remember that there's only
original,
151 Pokemon.
yeah, 150 until they showed us the 151st one. We're
Yeah,
like,
I know. I've only
what?
recently come on board with 151, so
Yeah, yeah. um, yeah, in all seriousness, like leaks will happen, I guess, but it's still crazy to me. So, okay, quickly, if you don't know what we're talking about, a spoiler is a card that has been revealed by the company who makes the game to show
right.
you new
To
cards.
yeah.
A leak is someone taking a picture of a card that they weren't supposed to have and no one's seen before and posting on the internet before the company has announced what that card is. And those leaks tend to be taken on some sort of camera, I don't know, GoPro from like
Potato.
potato camera. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
I was
it's
like, if they want to find who the leak is, just like look through the company and see who still has like a Nokia cell
yeah,
phone from, 2005, because that's what it looked like took these fucking pictures.
yeah. They're all awful. Um, I had people coming in telling me like, "Oh, did you see this leak or whatever?" And they were trying to explain what the card does, and then I was like, "Oh, that sounds awful." The card comes out, and it's significantly different than what we were
What
talking about
whoever someone, yeah,
because
because they
it's
couldn't translate
because
this.
you can't read it. It's so
The
hard.
picture were that bad,
Yeah,
like
like
they
literally
were
that bad.
unreadable.
There's so many leaks you can go out and see them. Um, and this is one of the worst leaks. It's been a while since we've had a bad leak like this. Every once in a while you get some of them, but I think it happened around Kaldheim. We had some leaks.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it was called time.
it was around
Yeah.
there we were talking about this again. The worst leak of all time, I think, was yeah, Mirrodin Besieged around that one of those sets in that block. The
Mhm.
entire God book got spoiled or
Jeez.
leaked. Um, and the God book is a book that has every single card in it, and they were
Mhm.
given to pro players at the time, I think, so they could prepare for upcoming
Yeah.
events. So
Wonder why they
somehow,
stopped doing that.
yeah, that's exactly why they stopped.
Yeah, leaks are brutal. Like the
Yeah,
company has specific, they're releasing it at a time for a reason to drum up hype. Like it has serious marketing impacts and sales impacts on the actual set.
yeah,
Like they do it this way for a reason. And they
yeah.
already do so many previews. Like, what do you need them even earlier for?
That's the
You know?
biggest one to me. Is like we always complain about new cards being spoiled all the time and the company pushing new products. Why are you getting excited about new cards that we won't have for 2 months that aren't we don't even need to see them yet. Let me experience the thing that just came out. Like these leaks were happening like basically the week that Outlaws of the Junction was coming out or the week after. It's like let me just play this. I don't want to talk about the next thing yet. Give me another
I
month at
I
least.
saw I didn't like see the leaks because I didn't want to really go in and
Hmm.
look. But I saw, on Reddit posts MH3 leak or whatever
Hmm.
before I played any Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
Like that's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
so frustrating. Just like I don't know, like what did the leakers really get out of it besides like clout, I guess?
Yeah, it must be
But
something
you're also
like
trying to be secretive, I'm sure, so that you don't get
right.
caught. So like I don't know, what you can tell people that you were the one that leaked it. That's cool, I guess. I don't think it's cool, but whatever. Anyway, the reason we're talking about this is because WOTC has discussed it because it the leaks got so bad that they had to release an article being like, "Hey, so we all know it's getting leaked. You're
Right.
seeing the cards.
The cards, it's real.
It's real.
Like, yeah.
So let's address it and just show you the cards that you've seen or some of them that are coming out so that you can actually see the real card, right? And so you'll
Yeah.
know like it looks better, it's nicer if you're going to be posting things around, at least post the real picture. So, I think that's the best way to deal with it.
And then they even sprinkled in a few cards that hadn't
Yeah,
actually been leaked.
and so they're
Um,
like, here's the spoilers have started, kind of.
yeah.
We're not going super in depth on them yet. It's not just like now it's spoiler season.
Right.
Um, but we did get quite a few cards, and we wanted to talk about them because they're coming into timeless and they're coming to Arena
Now that
this.
they are official spoilers,
Yes,
we
now
can
we will
discuss
discuss them.
them.
But that's our quick little mini rant about leaks because, well, we don't always like address it head on. But those are our feelings about leaks. All right, well, Jeff, we have a bunch of magic themed magic cards, which is pretty cool. After we do happen to get a lot of universes beyond stuff and things, it's been interesting to see magic cards that are referring to past magic cards.
Yeah,
Um,
I that's one of the things that I always love about these sets. Like I just think it's cool because they often redesign or at least harken back to old classics.
yeah.
And uh as an old fogey who knows what card they're referencing, that
Hmm.
always, warms my heart a bit. Even though like before I wouldn't have any real reason to play or buy these sets, I would always just see that and be like, oh, that's cute.
Hmm.
And now I actually might play with these cards in Timeless. So um, it's just that's my favorite part, just the references to old cards, and they do a lot of it in the Modern Horizons. So
They do. Um, to okay, to an extent where maybe it's too much. Maybe it's
yeah,
too much.
to a fault. Yeah.
I like and the way that I have decided to look at it now, people have just been talking about that. I just mentioned it, is that like we get Fallout, we get Lord of the Rings, we get Doctor Who, we get everything nowadays. We're
Uh,
getting Assassin's Creed, we're getting Final Fantasy, we're getting Marvel, we're all that stuff. So having a card called Spawn Gang Commander that's basically Siege Gang Commander, but a new type of version is nice. Where you're like, hey, that's a reference to a magic card that I knew when I was younger. I used to play that card or
right.
play against it more accurately. Um, that is that is nice, and having magic themed magic cards is really what I want. So I can't be too picky when it comes to that. Um,
Yeah. So I think the evolution of this is kind of interesting in and of itself because
mhm,
what they did. originally was create reprint sets called Modern Masters,
Hmm.
for those who don't know. Modern Masters was like, hey, some of the modern staples are difficult to come by. Let's just reprint them in a big set called Modern Masters, and then we'll make it draftable and fun to draft. And that way, we're supplying more of these cards. People like Modern, they buy these packs. They can kind of go after some of these chase rares and mythics, and they could draft it.
Hmm.
Um, it was fine. There was some issues with it, like people complaining about upshifted rarities and stuff like that. Like, oh, this card was
Right.
printed as a rare when mythic rares didn't exist. Now it's a mythic rare. Bah, 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 bah.
Hmm.
But the real issue with it is that the modern metagame develops and progresses so quickly at times that like cards that are in Modern Masters aren't relevant anymore because they were printed so long ago that they're just not powerful enough to compete in today's game.
Hmm.
And so Modern Horizons kind of hit on, I think the idea, and I don't know if this was officially stated, but the idea was let's do a modern reprint set, but like reimagine the cards as though they were printed at today's power level. And so a lot of these things are like, oh, I'm referencing this cool card that you like, but that like Siege Gang Commander is completely unplayable. So
Hmm.
here is a newer version that is better. And it got some flack from some people where it's like, I don't like that you're essentially printing better versions of cards I used to love.
Hmm.
But I think for the most part, people have kind of come around to that idea, which is, look, you just can't play the cards you used to love. They suck now.
Yeah.
So this is really actually giving you a way to play that card, but actually have a chance to win.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I think Siege Gang Commander and the new one, Spawn Gang Commander, are is not the best example because Spawn Gang
they're
is like,
both unplayable. Yeah.
yes, they're both unplayable.
But this one's an uncommon, right? So
Yes,
it's
that's
like
true. That's
it's
true.
it's like a signal to you that this is not
Hmm.
meant to be constructed
Totally.
playable. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think like what you're kind of hearkening to as well, like the Modern Masters sets, because sets take 2 years. It's awkward when you're like, hey, this card you wanted reprinted, you told us 2 years ago you wanted it reprinted. Now, when we reprint it, it's useless.
Yeah. Bob
And
Bob is always the example I think of. He was like the
mhm,
face of Modern Masters original, and I don't think anybody was playing Bob when
when
that
it came
set
out,
dropped. So.
yeah, that's awkward.
And
Um,
certainly nobody plays Bob in Modern now. So
yeah, we play it in standard
yeah.
though.
Actually, we play better Bob.
Hmm. Much better, Bob.
We play the Modern Horizons version of Bob in
Yeah, exactly,
standard.
exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Um, so let's talk about some cards that are coming out. I think a big one that's happening is we're getting a cycle of free spells. Now, free spells are always big. It's a huge thing. And in Magic, it's just ingrained in Magic. Force of Will is like the most famous counterspell. So anytime we get something that's kind of close to that, we have to talk about it. Um, we this is the Flare cycle. So originally we had seen Flare of Cultivation, which is the green variant that makes it cultivate. But we have the cancel variant of this. So the new card is Flare of Denial, which is 1 blue for an instant at rare. It says counterspell. It also says you may sacrifice a non token blue creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. So sacrifice that dorky 1 drop, I guess, and counter whatever if you're tapped out. Otherwise, it's a cancel. Jeff, what do you think about this card?
I think everyone could have predicted this card when we saw the green one.
Hmm.
I like it. I think, I basically have the same response to it as I had when I saw Flare of Cultivation, which is that the idea that you have to sacrifice a creature, I think, is a much better way to handle the free spells issue
Hmm.
because this is asking you, like what this card says is, hey, get ahead on board, get some tempo going, and then this keeps them off balance at the cost of one of your attackers, kind of thing. Or if you're going to play the sit back control, like you got to have some creatures.
Hmm.
Otherwise, this is cancel, which is wildly unplayable in modern.
Yeah.
So, um, this is a lot better than all the other stuff they tried of like exile a card from your hand because that incentivized you to just sit back or like let you do it on turn 0 without doing anything or this actually requires you to commit to the board
And
and
have had a turn.
yeah, and I think that matters. I like this change. Um Obviously free spells are notorious for being way better than they look,
Hmm.
but this one doesn't seem like it's gonna sort of take over and be ubiquitous. It seems like for the right deck that kind of wants this, like maybe Merfolk gets to side this in, or like some decks that need a bit of help, um,
Yeah, I mean,
and are
like,
actually playing, magic that they want to promote, which is committing to the board.
yeah,
Um,
and getting the game done.
yeah,
Uh, in Timeless, like, we don't really have a Merfolk deck, do we? Are playing people playing
I mean, I
Merfolk?
have played against Merfolk in
Oh, okay,
Timeless,
all
but
right, that's good to know. I
it
didn't play
was not the most
competitive.
difficult
Okay,
victory of
gotcha.
my Timeless career.
Understand, understand. I mean, like Merfolk in historic has been a thing for sure. But that's the
Yeah,
biggest thing people are saying Flare of Denial would go into like a Merfolk deck because that's the only deck that has blue creatures.
right.
Like I think besides that you like Snapcaster Mage, you play that blue creature and this
Some sort of
spell
Delver kind of thing, maybe. But you don't really want to
yeah.
sack your Delver, right? So
Yeah, you don't want to sack Delver. The other blue creatures, like what? You don't have that many blue tokens. Oh, you can't play tokens. Sorry, because you can't sacrifice blue tokens. So you don't have you just don't have that many blue creatures. Like if you have an Uro out, you don't want to sacrifice your Uro necessarily. You will because you can bring it back, I guess. But like maybe that's the blue. What else? What's another blue creature that people play?
Zach, I just thought of it.
What?
We're missing something obvious.
Oh.
You know what you're sacking? Merfolk Windrobber.
Oh, perfect.
Uh,
Finally, something to do with Merfolk Windrobber. That card.
yes.
This is it. Okay. All right. All right. Here we go.
Rogues is back on the menu.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, we could play Rogues in Timeless for sure because you have Merfolk Windrobber. You can also play like sacrificing your Ruin Crab is a bummer, but like you probably got your value out of it.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, you have your, in if you're in a pinch, you always have your the other one that I can't remember the name of right now. The
Yeah.
Lord,
He,
the plus
yeah.
one, the flying one. What's
Yeah.
his name?
Soaring Thought Thief.
Soaring Thought Thief. Thank you.
Yes.
Um, all right, okay, we can play this in Rogues. I like that. Rogues or something. Okay, all right, all right, all right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, I'm on board now. Before I was like, nobody plays blue creatures,
Yeah.
but now I realize I want to be playing blue creatures. So, all right, we're there. We got there.
Now we're going to waste a lot of time on Rogues and Timeless.
Hell yeah, we are.
I already have a
Uh,
list kicking around somewhere, actually on the podcast account. So all we need to do is
Perfect.
craft these bad boys,
And
chuck them
polluted
in there.
delta done.
Yeah.
Uh, but what card stood out to you? What was something that you were like, huh, this is a card now?
All right. So we talked about Reduke in the
Hmm.
Pro Tour version or portion of this chat. So I feel like I have to mention this card. The card that was spoiled where I was like, huh, was Nethergoyf. So this is black for a
Hmm.
star/1+star. I don't know if you're familiar with that stat line,
Looks
but
familiar.
Nethergoyst's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. So it's like 1 mana. It's like a semi-goyf. It's a one
Hmm.
mana goyf for only your graveyard. But there's more. Escape 2 and a black. Exile any number of other cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them. So um,
Woof.
hefty cost to pay on that
Hmm.
escape cost, but presumably in a deck where this card is good, that's manageable.
Hmm.
And um, I don't know. It's just I feel like we're playing 8 Goyf now. We're going Goyf into Goyf with our fetch
Hmm.
lands and and mill ourselves somehow, or even just do it by the book and you know Goyf into Bolt your face kind of got some big creatures like. think Tarmogoyf has seen a somewhat of a resurgence, at least at the beginning of Timeless, where people originally were like, "This is garbage," and then
Hmm.
more people played it. Like, actually, it doesn't suck. And I like the idea of getting the half Goyf here as the one
Hmm.
drop, and then because now we're talking about a serious curve. So I like this card, and interested to see it. I could see it going like
Either
just not
way,
really seeing play, but I think this seems like a powerful one drop to me.
yeah. I will have to say, when I first saw this card, I was furious because I didn't know that it only counted your graveyard. I
Mm.
was like, is this just strictly better Goyf
This
in
is
black? What the fuck?
how
I was
rude.
so mad.
It's like Goyf, but costs less mana and has an escape ability.
Exactly. Um, then I realized, oh, okay, so it actually is significantly worse in the sense that your opponent won't grow it for you.
Right.
You're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and um, all that kind of stuff. But I like the idea of like Goif into Goif. I think it could definitely do something. My feelings towards it have vanished, and now it's a possibility of a card that I can be behind.
Yeah.
Where immediately when I saw it, I was like, "Fuck this set! I hate it."
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have the same interaction with Thoughtseize, right? Where like the
Yeah.
classic with Goyf is like, okay, fetch land, Thoughtseize you. Now there's land sorcery, and I just take something that's not a sorcery, and then suddenly we're
Hmm.
at three.
Yeah.
Um, so this will still get you two land Thoughtseize, gets you two card types for the
Hmm.
purposes of this guy, but it does matter that it only checks your graveyard because it was a mostly what you were doing with Goyf is okay, I can lightning bolt at the appropriate time to get it instant into my graveyard and stuff. So it
Hmm.
captures a lot of the card, but there was a lot of, the decks it was in played Thoughtseize and that kind of stuff. So or you just know your opponent's going to play Mishra's Bauble, so you get a freebie there and that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. But
Yeah, that's true.
it's more than half because your graveyard is what you have control over.
That's
So
true.
it is more than half a Goyf, but
Also, this seems just easier to manage in paper, and which is
mhm.
like making sure you're always checking your opponent's graveyard just sounds like abysmal to me. Um, Obviously,
Yeah.
that's what the original one was, but
Plus, you don't
yeah.
feel as bad when you ley line of the void and you're like, your graveyard's exiled.
Hmm. That's true.
Or even simpler, just like Tormod script. Right?
Right.
Because a lot of the time you would do that and you'd be like, oh, that shrank my Goyf. Should have thought of
Should
that
have
one.
should have thought of that before I did that. Shoot.
Yeah.
So, but no, cool card. Happy to see it. Um, there's another card that calls. Actually, well, I mean, most of these cards call back to another card pretty intensely. Uh, but this one seems interesting. I want to hear your take on it. I see it in a different light than I can't see it in a arena light basically. So I need your help.
Okay.
Null Elemental Blast. It's
Hmm.
a colorless mana for an instant. It says choose one, counter target multicolored spell, or destroy target multicolored permanent. This is obviously harkening back to Red Elemental Blast and Blue Elemental Blast, which are Hydroblast and Fire Blast?
Pyroblast.
Pyroblast, that's what it is. I was like, that's not right. Um,
There is a difference actually between like Hydroblast and Blue Elemental Blast.
oh,
Uh, one of them is destroy target blue permanent.
mhm.
I think that's Blue Elemental Blast.
And the other one
I'm
says,
wrong about which one is which, but
gotcha.
one of them is destroy target blue permanent, and the other one is destroy target permanent if it's blue. So
Oh,
you can actually put one of them on the stack to target something that's not blue. It's rare. It's rarely relevant, but does occasionally come up. If you're trying to commit crimes in Legacy,
and you
for
just
example.
need a thing to target.
Yeah, so it's like they did a reprint where they
Gotcha.
essentially remade the card, but wanted to update the templating into something that they actually do now,
Hmm.
and that's why it has a different name. But I've seen it come up in Legacy where they're like, "Oh, I play this version because you can target something even if."
If it's not.
So one in some sense, one is strictly better.
Gotcha. So Hydroblast is the one that says counter target spell if it's red, destroy target permanent if it's red.
Yeah.
Um,
So that one is the better one.
Interesting. So then
Kind of
you're
like the
saying,
fatal push thing where you're allowed to target it even though
right?
it won't actually kill the thing.
Yeah, which can fuck you over if you're on arena.
Yeah, so
Um,
for me, it's strictly worse because I'm playing on Arena. I'm like, this is gonna let me do something I should
I
not
shouldn't do.
do,
Yeah.
whereas the other one won't. But in terms of proper gameplay, the other one's strictly better because sometimes there are weird corner cases where you want to put it on the stack even though it's not going to kill the thing it's
Very
targeting.
interesting. Interesting.
Storm
Interesting.
count kind of stuff. Um,
As far as this spell, where it's colorless and
yeah,
it destroys multicolored cards, um, obviously looks like it's Ugin's hand shooting a ray of something, smiting his brother, Nicol Bolas,
yeah.
um, as they're twins or something. I think they're twins. Or no, maybe they're not twins. Maybe they're just part of the same. I've read a story about it once. I think that Nicol Bolas like killed the other ones, and Ugin's the only surviving one of their
Hmm,
hatchlings or something.
gotcha.
Or something happened. Anyway, their other brothers are like the other dragons, the Chromium and the blah blah
Yeah,
blah blah blah. But I
right.
think Nicol Bolas killed them all and then read a book. Um, anyway, sorry. What are your thoughts on this card?
Uh, my thoughts are that I probably won't play this card. I don't like it because I don't like colorless, but not artifact. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
like the colorless shtick personally very much. This seems like a pretty powerful sideboard card to include in a lot of decks. The problem in Timeless, at least thinking about it from that perspective, is like this is asking you to play what, Painland?
Yeah,
Ugh. I don't want to play a Painland. So I think in the end, this actually does have to kind of be played
strictly
in a
colorless decks.
colorless, a deck that cares about colorless beyond this.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it has to be fully Eldrazi or fully colorless, maybe not, but it has to like want to play Painlands for a different reason
Yeah.
than this one. So I'm pretty confident in saying this is a card I will never play and that I hate this card. But because the only situations I can imagine it being cast are situations I don't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I like them doing the callbacks, like I said earlier, but this one doesn't really hit home for me, mostly because my just my gripe with the set in general is that it's Eldrazi. It has an Eldrazi sub-theme. So
Yeah. There's a devoid Eldrazi sub theme,
oh,
which
the one thing I did want to say though is if
okay.
you look at, since this is the first sort of colorless card we're talking about, if you look at the old border cards,
Mm,
they've introduced an old border colorless card frame that I actually think looks pretty cool.
it looks super
So
cool.
at first I was like, what? That's not the artifact frame. I was like, oh yeah, because it's not an artifact. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, they would need a new frame for these.
Yeah.
And they made one, and it matches with the old frames really well.
Yeah.
And I think they did a great job on the old board, on like the
Old.
old border, or sorry, old style
Yeah.
colorless cards. They look great.
Yeah, I think it looks really, it's really just like the artifact frame because it's kind of brown, but then
Yeah.
they just like sucked all the color out of it and then
Yeah, it just has
um
that hint of kind of
mhm,
brown in there, but
I
it's
like it. It has
yeah,
the same
it's like a
texture as the
pale gray.
artifacts. It's
Yeah.
good. I'm
Yeah.
on board for that. Super cool. Super. I mean, I just love the retro frame.
I know. I'm looking at the Psychic Frog right now, the gold one. I'm like,
Hmm.
I love this like cheesy gold effect in the background,
I
but
know.
it's so great.
It's so great. Bring it back. Bring
Hey,
it
they are,
back.
man. They are bringing it back.
I just mean like for all the cards all the
Oh
time.
yeah, well they'll never do
No,
that.
no, no, they're never gonna do that. So, as we're talking about like colorless creatures, there's another creature that I was like, did they do us dirty a little bit? Like, I know that we kind of like to go back and see like, oh, this creature now turned into this thing. That's cool. Did we need to make a new Mole Drifter in Null Drifter? This is a 7 mana 4/4, and it says when you cast this spell, draw 2 cards. It has flying and Annihilator 1, but of course it evokes for 2 and a blue, so you can cast it and then immediately sacrifice it. So for 3 mana, you can draw 2 cards, and then you get to reanimate it from your graveyard essentially, or do whatever
Yeah.
you do with Mole Drifters or blink it or whatever. But this one also just attacks and is a house because it makes your opponent sacrifice permanents. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Although like Mole Drifter it's almost never cast.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those weird things where it's a divination that sometimes is a creature, but that
Mm-hmm.
makes it so amazing. So I guess
Yeah,
that's fair. Like the fact that this is a creature, the creature part does matter,
but
but
it
most
becomes
of the time
better.
you're casting it as a divination. Um, and like it's a divination that involves sacrificing a creature and putting a reanimate target into the grave. Like there's a lot of extra things that evoke does on top of just, oh, it's a divination
Mm-hmm.
like split card. But I honestly believe my theory on this card is that they were doing like a Modern Horizons set with Eldrazi, and somebody thought of the name Null Drifter, and that's it.
And that's it.
Then
And then
then they're
the
like,
rest
well, we're
was
doing
history.
that, and we just have to make a creature part. Like we just have
Yeah.
to decide what the stats are, but
Mm-hmm. Because
this
the
card
other
is going to
thing,
happen.
yeah, because the thing is like, with this card and the last one that we were talking about, the Null Elemental Blast, these cards are like commander players love Mull Drifter, and they also like Eldrazi. Um,
Ooh, I like one of those two things.
yes, I agree. And Null Elemental Blast is like one colorless destroy target commander, or counter
Right.
target commander. So that's what those cards really look like to me. They don't look like, I mean, they
Gotcha.
have flavor and stuff and it's cool for the set or whatever, but as far as like timeless implications and things, meh, not really
Yeah.
thinking they're
Didn't
going to do
even think
anything.
about that at
They
all.
they look like commander cards to me.
Gotcha.
Um,
The one thing I'll call out that I just noticed now on Null Drifter is that it's a cast trigger and not an ETB trigger. Mull Drifter
mm,
is an ETB trigger. So
oh,
you get your value no matter what from this, like just evoking it. And then I had to read that. I like that they put the reminder text of evoke here because I'm like, does this even work? And
hmm,
it's like, yes, evoke is still casting it.
yeah,
Um, but then you just sack it right away.
that makes sense.
So
Yeah, so you can't reanimate this or blink it and you don't get that stuff.
yeah,
Okay, so it is
Reanimator actually
different.
doesn't work here, but you can't really like counter it from your opponent's side of the
Just
battlefield.
like other Eldrazi. When
Yeah,
you cast them, they have cast triggers.
right.
Okay, I didn't know that part. I'm going to retract my statement and say that this card is significantly different than Mole Drifter, and now I
Yeah.
like it. Now I like
Now I'm
it.
like, okay, I kind of get it. Um, yeah, my brain just assumed it worked like Mull Drifter because of the name, but I was like,
Me
wait a
too.
minute, that's a
I,
cast trigger. That
I,
I'm pretty sure Mull Drifter was not a cast trigger.
yeah, it goes into like white blue decks all the time where you flicker stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I I'm happy with this now. I feel a lot better. Thank you for looking that up and reminding me, as I am a couple beers deep and I need to get
Um,
up.
that's a good card to talk about. Okay, we have to talk about. Oh, there's two cards I'm looking at. Okay, we have to talk about this card though.
We have to. We have to.
So this is um, for all of you players out there who really enjoy just locking your opponents out of the game so that they can't do anything. Do we have the card for you? So this is supposed to be a Winter Orb meets Blood Moon love child, and they called it Winter Moon. So it's 2 mana for an artifact. Players can't untap more than one non-basic land during their untap steps. So for the people who are really old, started playing even before I did, there's a card called Winter Orb, which is an artifact that said players can't untap more than one land during their untap steps. It might have even been permanent,
I think it's
actually.
permanent. That's what
Yeah,
I
it
was gonna
can't
look up.
untap more than one permanent. So just imagine what a
Hmm.
nightmare of a card that is.
Sorry,
The
it
game
does say
design.
land. It does
Oh, it
say
is
land.
land.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes this design a little sleeker. But okay,
Hmm.
so basically just nobody gets to untap lands. You get one land a turn, and then you have to build up your lands over several turns to untap enough of them. Do it, and presumably the deck playing Winter Orb. I think there was shenanigans where artifacts don't work if they're tapped.
Hmm.
So you would tap your own Winter Orb before you're going to untap your lands,
Hmm.
and then it would untap, and then your
Hmm.
opponent doesn't get to untap their lands. So that was part of the nightmare that was Winter Orb.
Yeah.
But
Back in the day in like original Magic, like all artifacts had the secret text. It was like in the game that if an artifact was tapped, it didn't do
it
anything
was
anymore.
blank. Yeah.
Also, funny enough,
It was an
uh,
elk, you know.
yeah, it didn't do anything. Uh,
Yeah.
the same thing was true for blocking creatures. So if a creature that blocked was also became tapped at any point, it would not deal damage. So the card, if you've ever seen the card Twiddle before, Twiddle makes a lot more sense when you knew all of those interactions, like
Yeah.
tapping and untapping your artifacts so that they could turn on and off, tapping your opponent's blockers after they blocked, made it so that you got to just remove their creature. Um,
Yeah.
it makes that card not kind of dumb.
Yeah. And it just reminds me of so many cards you read and you're like, oh, right, this was designed when damage went on the stack because now
Hmm.
it just sucks.
Yes.
Um,
Yep. Same
but
with like
okay.
mana drain with mana burn.
Right. Mana burn. Yep. So yeah, Winter Moon is Winter Orb for non-basics.
Hmm.
So this is just more non-basic land hate in a format where almost every land in most players' decks is non-basic. So
Yes.
um, interesting. I like the idea of smashing together two more or less universally hated cards
Hmm. Yes.
and and producing this, which I can only imagine will be universally hated. But
It doesn't have the writer like as long as this is untapped, then do this.
yeah, but
Um,
the secret text here is that like
you are
I'm playing
monocolored.
basics.
Yeah, I play basics. You don't.
And it
Um,
doesn't matter what, like, I could play two colored because this is an artifact, right? So
mhm,
like
that's true.
it's not like Blood Moon where you kind of, well, Blood Moon's a weird one because you like fetch for forest because you're gonna play a Blood Moon. Your opponent doesn't know that.
Yeah, but you also know
So
that you're going to have a bunch of like red mana always available.
yeah.
So once you play Blood Moon, I think Winter Moon seems really interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, the one thing about it is that it doesn't feel like a full lock because your opponent can untap their fetch lands, and then I guess they won't untap their fetch lands because their fetch lands won't be tapped. So actually, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. They can
Um,
they can so one of the things about like fetch lands are good against Blood Moon as well, right? Like if you
mhm.
leave fetch lands uncracked and someone Blood Moons you,
You
you
get to
crack
crack
in
all of them.
response, you go get basics, assuming
Hmm.
you play them.
Yeah.
And this has the same weakness. If your opponent has a bunch of fetch lands, this doesn't
Do
really get them.
yeah.
But if they've cracked their fetch lands to go get triomes and shock lands and stuff like that, this can do some damage. And there's an archetype in modern. I don't know if it's still any good, but it was around for a while. It's called Blue Moon,
Hmm.
and it was just like a blue-red deck that played Blood Moon, and it's fetch lands and basics basically, and it was like trying to beat you down while Blood Mooning you. It was like the whole pressure plus disruption package, but the disruption was Blood Moon,
Love
and
it.
yeah, yeah. Most people didn't love it, but but it's, Bolt Snap, Bolt,
Hmm.
Blood Moon, that kind of like pressure plus disruption package. And would be a great card for them to add to their arsenal. So maybe we're gonna see that in Timeless, a resurgence of Blue Moon with Winter
Hmm.
Moon and Blood
And Blood
Moon.
Moon. I'm
Or,
super down.
8 Moon, but it doesn't have to play the other crappy moon or whatever.
Alpine Moon.
Yeah, like,
Not good.
or 12 Moon. Maybe we could play 12 Moon.
Mm, 12th Night.
Yeah,
Um, I like this card. I think it's definitely cool. I love Blood Moon, but the cool thing about this is that you do get to like you're kind of interested in playing this later in the game almost when your opponent had a big turn or like tapped a bunch of lands to do something and then you get to
yeah,
slam it and then there's locked out as
yeah,
opposed to Blood Moon where you want to play it as early almost as early as possible to screw them up so they don't get stuff on the board.
yeah.
um
The reason this is a better design than Blood Moon 2 is, let's say I get caught with my pants down. I
mhm,
get Blood Mooned. There is now, and I'm not a red deck, there is
mhm,
now nothing I can do except hope to top deck a basic.
mhm.
Winter Moon, I can like, okay, untap this, destroy target artifact. All right, now we're out
Now
of
we can
it.
play the game.
Like I'm still probably gonna lose because that took me like 2 turns or
Mhm.
whatever. But it's not, I'm literally just sitting there hoping to top deck a basic land of which there are 3 or 4 in my entire deck. Like I get to untap one, right? So
Yes.
I do get 1 mana turn. I can build that up over several turns and cast something. Whereas Blood Moon is like, ooh, you have no basics. Better hope you draw one,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
you just do nothing for the rest of the game.
Exactly. And Blood Moon is like, let's play this right now. Where Winter Moon seems to have a lot more play of like, when do you sneak this in? You know?
Right.
It has the same
Yeah.
play in the Pro Tour. There's a similar situation where Yoshihiko Ikawa is trying to figure out when to play the Rest in Peace or also when to play the Cavern of Souls. I think that's all pretty interesting of like I
For
have this
sure.
card that helps me win the matchup, but I have to figure out when to put it down so that it doesn't get destroyed and I get to
Yeah.
use it to its full advantage. And I think this card has a bit of that quality. So I like that quite a bit.
You're trying to like coax them into tapping out. So then you're
Hmm.
like, ha,
Ha. Now
gotcha.
you're screwed. Yeah,
Time walk.
that's a really good play design. I think that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
I guess
Um,
if you use it like that, it's kind of time walk because
yeah,
it's like,
it's a 2 mana. Yeah, 2 mana card that says your opponent doesn't get the next turn or the next two, 3 turns actually.
and
Um,
it doesn't get the new lands like Blood Moon does,
mhm.
right? Whereas
Yeah,
like Winter Moon hits you and you're still like, okay, I have a land in hand.
at
Fetch
least I
land.
have two next turn
Go
or
fetch a
whatever.
basic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like the problem, the huge thing with Blood Moon is like even if I have fetch lands in hand, I can't go fetch basics with them because they're mountains.
Yeah, always. Which is, yeah, which is the reason that that's hated, but also the reason that I love it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love and hate Blood Moon. It just depends which side of the battlefield I'm on.
Yeah, for sure. Um, there's probably one other card we want to talk about, um, which is another really famous card
Mm.
that I didn't actually play a lot of, but I know of it, of course.
I recognized this when the art when I saw it.
You recognize the art.
Wait, tell me which card you're talking about.
All right, we are talking about White of the Reliquary.
Oh, okay. Yes. I mean, I did recognize that this was an homage to the art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm wondering what were you talking about?
There's a reprint in this set.
Oh, okay. Um, I'm not talking about a reprint. I'm talking about another card though. But okay, quickly on this. So
No, I
white,
wanted to talk about this card too. Just the way you set it up, I thought it was a reprint, and I was like, yeah, I was surprised they did that too. But,
close enough. It's like a reprint. Um,
yeah.
so this is calling to Knight of the Reliquary. So Knight of the Reliquary is like 1 green white for a 2/2 human knight. It gets +1/+1 for each land card in your graveyard, and then you can tap and sacrifice a forest or plains to search your library for a land, put it onto the battlefield. That's any land, and that's also
Hmm.
untapped. Um, White of the reliquary is Golgari, so it's green and black for a 2/2 zombie knight with vigilance, and it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. You can tap it to sacrifice another creature to search your library for a land and put it on the battlefield tapped. Um,
Yowza. I love this card.
does this go in the Goif deck? Almost. Like it doesn't do all the different types. You want lots of creatures in this deck, but
The only thing I don't like about it is like in the Goif deck, my creatures are good, man. I don't know if I want to sack them.
hmm,
Um,
that's true.
but the thing about this compared to Knight, because you might wonder, like, is this even better than Knight? This is legit ramp.
Hmm.
Knight is replacing a land with another land, which is powerful.
Hmm.
This is like if you build around this, you're replacing some trash creature token with a
Or
land.
blocking, like chumping creature or
Yeah,
whatever.
like obviously my mind immediately goes to a sacrifice themed
Hmm.
strategy here, but the only problem with that is, of course, you don't. If you're sacking tokens, you don't get the creature
You
card
don't
in the
beef up your.
graveyard that
Yeah, that's
you
true.
want. So I guess what you want to sack is like any of those creatures that leave behind creature tokens when they die.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like I was trying to remember what's the most recent one, but the Nizumi
Yeah,
something
Nizumi.
something that leaves a mercenary.
Yeah, that one. I thought about that one immediately as well.
Yeah. The card that you're always like, yeah, I guess I'll put this in my deck, but I
Yeah,
really don't want to.
that's because that fucking token sacrifice deck in white black does not work because fuck that fucking card.
I had drafted just the other day black white yesterday actually with
Hmm.
two of those Bertrams, and I had so many token makers. I had three of the treasure making 2/2.
Treasure Dredger, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like crazy, and I don't know, I got like 4 wins or something. But I was like, I'm gonna show Zach this 7 win list that's built around
Yeah.
Bertram, and no, I didn't get there. It was
That's because
just
that card
okay.
sucks.
It
Yeah.
was just okay. And
It's because
I
it's
built around, I got it early, and I was like, this is a chance to laugh at Zach. And
yeah.
then I just took every token making card I saw in the
Hmm.
entire draft. My deck was just okay.
Exactly. I saw that card pass to me the last like two cards, and I like picked the basic land over it. I was like, "Fuck that card!" Like, no, I'm not
I don't know if
taking
it's that bad, but
I hate it now. I hate it. I hate it.
it's not what white black wants to be doing. It
No,
wants the other uncommon white black card way more
that
than it.
card is so much
I
better.
don't think I've ever seen it. I've never had that card in my deck for sure, but it sure gets played against me a lot.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm
Anyways,
just,
White of the Reliquary is nice.
it's cool.
I like the pun or
Hmm.
sort of the just like slight change in the name. Makes a different card. I think this card is more powerful than Knight, and I was a big fan of Knight. I think Knight's a really cool card.
Hmm.
And
I think Knight,
this is
like,
perfect in your Gitrog monster deck, just saying.
oh, for sure. Um, Knight like ramps you right now, right? Because you can tap the land, sacrifice it, get another one
Right.
untapped and
It's
tap
like
it.
yeah,
But this one is real true ramp.
right.
It also gets whatever land you want as well. So um,
Mhm.
that is
Which
also
that's the huge power of Knight is like, oh, my opponent has a creature land that's whooping my
mhm.
ass. Let me go get Field of Ruin.
Yeah, boom.
Um, just and you build this deck that's like a toolbox land deck. I think it's so cool, and I love that they're bringing it back. I don't know if this will be impactful enough to see much play in like Timeless or Modern, but it's a really
Hmm.
cool card, and I hope it does.
I like it. Jeff, what reprint were you talking about earlier?
Yeah, they reprinted Time Walk in white. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it's
I
called
mean,
Orem's Chance, which was a card from Plane Shift, Planescape,
plane,
Plane
plane
Shift.
chase, plane, no, plane shift,
Whichever one is not the weird like multiplayer product and is the
plane or
name of the.
chaos.
No, it's like plain some. It's really old. It has the swirl for its logo.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's in the
Uh,
invasion block. Why can I not
yeah,
remember what this fucking thing is
plain
called? Plane shift.
plain shift. It was plain shift. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is same art, which I really like. Kev Walker art. As soon as I
Oh,
saw it, I was like, I remember this card. Um, I think I had this card like in my big old box of random crap.
hmm.
And basically this is a reprint to add it into modern and into timeless and stuff like that. But it's white mana for an instant. It has kicker for a white mana. Target player can't cast spells this turn. If it was kicked, creatures can't attack this turn. So it's Time Walk,
So good.
except they get to play a land.
And draw a card, but
Yeah,
what good is that?
it's fixed Time Walk.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot. Just like
Time Walk at home.
upkeep stop, double white, fuck you.
Yeah.
Um, obviously they can go to their combat step and
And like
cast,
activate stuff and
yeah, and
you
whatever.
know, pay activated abilities. They can
But like
still
they can
take
use their
a turn.
planeswalkers, I guess.
But it's nice to have like an upgraded silence. And for me, it was mostly
Yeah.
just like as soon as I saw it, I was like, I remember this card.
I
And
love the art. I
that was
love that.
cool. The art is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I think it's important when they don't change the art on old cards like this.
Yeah.
Like the Sylvan Safekeeper is another reprint from around that time.
Mhm.
Uh that has new art, but this is not new to this set. This is new art that was like from Commander products, I think. Um, but specifically, the reason I'm talking about this card, Sylvan Safekeeper, if you don't know, is a single green for a 1/1 human wizard. It says sacrifice a land. Target creature you control gains Shroud. Hmm, interesting. I wonder who would like that. Um, but anyway, the original card was an invitational card. This is a person who won the invitational
Mhm.
and got to choose whatever, like design a card. It was the same thing as like a world champion winning and getting a card of their likeness.
Yeah.
This was that card for
Just
that
like
year.
Duelist of the Mind.
Yes, this was that card for that year. So I don't really like it when they change the art because then that means that it doesn't look like the person anymore. But
Yeah. I feel like they did that a couple of times. There was outrage with Bob and with
mhm,
Chris Bakula,
yep, meddling mage and
Meddling Mage. And people are like, what the fuck? Why didn't you just give
what's
it the same art?
what's
Like,
the point? They did that with Sad Robot with a
or at
Solemn
the
Simulacrum.
right, or at the
Hmm.
very least, make new art that's also
Also
looks
looks like
like the
them.
person. And if they like brought the person back in now that they're a little older and like got a, I could get
Yeah,
behind that.
if they looked different now.
And they're like, this is, this card is aged, but
Hmm.
that would have been kind of funny. But like, you can't just make new art that doesn't look like the person when the whole thing was you won this card that looks like you as your big prize. Like,
Yeah.
lame.
So I think it happened to Meddling Mage first, maybe, and then everyone
Yeah.
else just like fell in suit. Anyway, that's just something I think about when I see that. Um,
But yeah, Orm's Chant, eh, I don't know, like it could be a sideboard card or
could be a
it's
sideboard card.
disruption maybe for white decks, but I saw it and I was like, whoa, that was a blast from the past. And I loved
Super
that they
cool.
used the same art. And I am not seeing it here, like an old border version, but they should probably just include that where it's just an update with the new logo or whatever, the new
Hmm.
set symbol. And I also like that it has the plane shift watermark.
Yes, I do like that they do that with the Modern Horizons sets. Um, Another card that has a watermark that's a reprint, but it's reprinted from a Commander product
Ooh.
from the last couple years. Though this card is very important in Legacy, it is Kappa Cannoneer.
Mm.
Um, it's 5 and a blue for a 4/4 artifact creature turtle warrior. It originally was printed in the Kamigawa commander decks. It has improvise, which means you can tap artifacts to help pay the cost. And it has ward 4, so it has hexproof essentially. Um,
Pretty
when
close. Yeah.
Pretty close. Whenever Kappa Cannoneer or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it can't be blocked this turn. It being the Kappa Cannoneer. So this is a card that looks very cool to me. Um, Essentially, just like a hexproofy thing where you just play artifacts and make it big and attack and it can't be removed and killed. I love it. It's
I've
cheap
been
if you have
playing
lots of artifacts. I like it.
I've been playing so much Thunder Junction Limited that I was just like my brain just assumed this only happens once each turn.
No,
And I
no,
was
no,
like, what the fuck? This is terrible. And then I was like, oh wait, no, hold on. Yeah, we could yeah. Okay, I got you.
it's also a 5/5 always because when it enters the battlefield, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Um,
Yeah.
they they updated the text because originally it just said whenever an artifact enters,
Right.
counting itself, but it
And
confused
they're like,
people.
just everyone had to ask every single time they
Yeah,
cast it.
I know this card seems sweet. I like it.
Yeah, I don't think oh, man, I could do some sort of Tezzeret nonsense with this that's gonna be aggressively medium. I could definitely build that.
Hmm.
Okay, I can get behind it. I could get behind it. I'd never heard of this card before, and now that I know, like, I'm just now realizing through this discussion that the watermarks represent reprints from the set that they were
Yes,
printed
this
in. So,
this is they did this in the last Modern Horizon set as well.
yeah, that's
Um,
a nice touch.
it harkens back to it, which is really nice. Um, but yeah, Kappa Canyoneer. This is legacy card, so now it's in modern as well. Um, and that's literally the reason why it's in modern because it's been making waves in legacy, and people are like,
Right.
"Oh, we should get this card here. Would be good for artifact decks,
It's
which it
interesting when it goes that way, right?
yeah,
Like,
which doesn't happen
usually it's the
ever.
opposite. It's like they
Yeah,
ban it in modern, and then it's okay, is it still good enough in
hmm
legacy? Yep, ban it there too. Um,
this
whereas
is
this is like, hey, this card is creating cool play patterns in legacy. Maybe we could see
introduce it
if
to
if
modern.
it'll work in modern.
Hmm.
Uh,
Which like this was part of like the vehicles deck, commander deck in Kamigawa. So it's just so funny how how it loops around,
yeah,
how cards are found.
man, the Neon Dynasty just keeps on giving, huh? Like,
It
what a
gives so
set that
much.
was.
Such a good set. And rotating out soon. That was one other thing I wanted to quickly mention before we wrap up this episode is that if you're interested in these legends decks we had talked about earlier, the 4 color, the 5 color legends, you better play them soon because they're
Yeah,
going to rotate out in like a couple months. So,
I'd say that's true of
Slogurk.
like all of the decks that made the top eight. What deck is really protected from rotation? I guess
Oh, hmm,
I think
that's
they
true.
all fundamentally require the old set of cards. Like,
New Capenna specifically and
yeah, like Domain
Neon.
requires the Trilands.
Yes.
Uh, Azorius Control, if you look at what's rotating out of that, like you're not gonna have a Wandering Emperor
Hmm.
anymore. You're not gonna have like
Is it
um uh
Memory
Memory
Deluge?
Deluge.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, where's your deck? Esper, I mean
Rafine.
Esper loses Rafine
That's the best card in the deck. So,
and Denic.
endemic.
Uh it keeps around no, and it loses wedding announcement.
Hmm.
So okay, see a Esper. And then the Legends decks kind of fucked too.
Hmm.
Teamer Analyst?
That's mostly new cards.
That's
Oh
no, it's
no,
new
no, no!
Capenna
It's all
fetch
new.
lands.
Yeah,
It
you can't
needs
play
new
it.
Capenna fetch lands.
Yep.
So yeah, like you got to play all of these while you can.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, the fundamental thing. Like, if we didn't have 3 year standard, we would not have some of these decks. So, um, there you go. Really interesting. Very, very.
Yeah,
For all the frustrating things with like having longer standard or whatever, I think Teamer Analyst being around for like 6 months is
right.
worth it. You know?
This is the way you want it to work. And I
Hmm.
think there was some growing pains getting here.
Yeah.
And some maybe the concern is, can we keep this up? Or is
Hmm.
this a flash in the pan kind of lucky
Lucky
sort
break.
of
Yeah.
period of standard where it just was really good? Or
Hmm.
is this the expectation of a fully developed 3 year standard moving forward?
Is this what standard should have been for all those years?
Maybe they're convincing me because
Hmm.
this is a great standard environment.
It's
And then
really
all
good.
of a sudden, all of the top decks are gonna like rotate, and it's gonna be second tier decks that have to take their spots, and
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
that's
So
really cool. Yeah, even Caustic Bronco's gone because Shadow of Mortality is from New Capenna as well. So, I guess it's not gone, but
you got to
you
play the
know,
Bronco legit now.
you got to play legit Bronco.
I think Golgari sticks around. Golgari is still.
Golgari can for sure.
Does is Golgari just the best deck post rotation?
Maybe
Like it's just the only deck that people actually play that didn't lose its fundamental like
pieces. Yeah.
baseline. Still gonna have Shieldred, still gonna have Mosswood Dread Knight, so you still have Glissa, right? So you
Yeah,
still have a
still
deck.
has, yeah, all the good pieces.
Woohoo,
Picnic Ruiner.
Golgari.
Picnic Ruiner still good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're still around. Even though it seems like most of the, oh, I didn't mention this earlier, but the Gruul aggro decks of the tournament uh, looked very similar to a Picnic Ruiner deck, except for Picnic Ruiner didn't happen to be in the list. It
Oh,
mysteriously
boo.
was replaced by Slick Shot Show Off. Um,
Strange. Yeah,
Strange. I don't know why they
weird.
would do that. You gotta at least play
Well,
one. Come on, get out of here.
oh, to be fair, it looks like Rakdos aggro sucked, so did not perform well.
Yeah,
But I don't agree with most of the lists I was seeing. So that's the only reason. If they'd known about my
totally.
list, they would
Of course, of
have,
course.
yeah,
Yeah, yours is obviously much better.
yeah.
Um, Jeff, is there any last card you want to talk about before we move on to last call?
Honestly, I think this pretty much covered it for me for the Modern Horizons 3 previews. I think, I'll forgive them for bringing Eldrazi back into the set.
Hmm.
Um, but I did forget how like that cool feeling of just the way these I don't even know what to call them, but the like updated reprints or the
Yeah,
the callback cards. Um,
reimagined kind of.
yeah, they are pretty cool. I like the idea of providing the cards that are just powerful cards for those who care about that, but then, you know, in some sense, rewarding players who have been around
Hmm.
and know what the reference is to. You get a little extra something out of the design of the card, and you're like, that's cool.
Yeah, magic themed magic cards. Who
I
knew that
also
we
don't love
had?
that energy is back. Like Eldrazi and energy are back. This is like, what are you doing? But fine.
That's funny. I kind of like the energy is back a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but I
I can appreciate taking your time to redo energy and maybe make it suck less, but
mhm,
this is the place to inject energy stuff, so whatever.
exactly. It really feels like energy is just going to be like the draft format cards, and then
Yeah,
that's kind of it. Eldrazi stuff though, ugh.
it's gonna be some stupid energy Eldrazi deck that's I'm
Totally.
never gonna want to play against.
Well, we haven't seen the energy Eldrazi card yet, so we're waiting
Yeah,
for that.
you know there's one. You know
Yeah,
there's at least one.
some
It's
sort of Eldrazi monster that was on Kaladesh that sucked up a bunch of energy and did
whatever that
something.
stupid Hydra was, right? There's gonna be like an Eldrazi Hydra and
Oh,
the
sure.
whatever that Hydra was that had
Right.
the
Didn't it gain like hexproof and
it
stuff
got
or
hexproof if you used enough
using
energy,
energy?
but also counters and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the card that is turned into an Eldrazi. That's what I'm calling.
I think that's a good call. I like it.
Bristling Hydra or something like that.
Bruce, that sounds right.
But
There's
only if they can think of a Eldrazi themed pun for the name.
mhm,
So,
like not even gonna try. Anyway,
yeah.
let's go to last call. Let's talk about this Drifter Nitro Hazy Pale Ale that we've been drinking this evening. And as always, we rate our beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. This has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently. It's just a fun way to rate beers. So with that, don't feel bad that we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You have to spit them out. You pour them on the ground. They're disgusting, and I hate them.
Silver beers are just bad or boring. So either have your bad craft brews or your just boring microbrews or macrobrews fall into this
Uh,
category. Hey,
Gold
boring
beers.
microbrews find themselves here too. I wasn't
It's true. It's
wrong.
true. You're good. You're good. I'm just realizing that this beer has been hitting us harder than I thought.
Yeah.
Gold beers are fine, but they're whatever.
And platinum beers are solid, and you'll drink them again.
Uh, uh, what is it? Diamond beers are exceptional, and you were show these to your friends.
And Mythic, these are the best of the best. These are the Yoshihiko Ikawas of the beer world.
There we go. Mm. So let's talk about Muskoka Brewery's Drifter Nitro Hazy Pale Ale. Jeff, what are your thoughts? As I have mine, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I
I
should
don't.
go first
You should
because
go
you
first.
have information that I do not have.
Yes,
So,
yes, 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 yes.
uh, I thought it was tasty. I liked it. I was thinking I don't actually know. I was joking beforehand that the nitro is going to make all the difference, and now like the nitro is mostly what I'm thinking about when I drank this. I actually don't know if I've had a nitro
Pale ale.
pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe once, but this one was like really smooth and
Really
like
smooth.
really smooth.
Really smooth.
I'm used to that kind of feeling in stouts. So
Mm-hmm.
this gave me a bit of a like white stout vibe where this isn't what
Oh,
I'm expecting from this. It has
yeah.
like a stoutiness that I'm not thinking it should happen here,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I liked it. It was like it was the nitro smoothed out what you expect from a pale ale, like
Mm-hmm.
the hoppiness and all that. And so it was very strange. I thought it was like not really like anything I've tried. And I think for that reason, I really liked it because I was like, that's really cool. It's like that weird nitro stout thing,
I
but it has
yeah.
hops and it tastes like sort of like the pale ales that I'm used to, but it's
I
muted and smooth and creamy and like, what?
I liked it a lot. I thought this was
Yeah.
really good. Like, I don't
I
know if
have
it
no
was.
idea what I would have rated the underlying beer because I'm
Mhm.
mostly just commenting on like if you had a pale ale and you put it on nitro with this exact mix that they have here,
Yeah.
like this was really good.
This was like really smooth. It had like almost a peach kind of like that type of stone fruit almost.
Yeah.
It's like creamy and smooth and I don't know, it didn't seem sharp in any way. I don't know. I could drink a bunch of these. It just
Yeah.
really,
You
really went down so nicely.
yeah,
Um,
this was really tasty. I kind of want to give this Diamond.
I definitely want to give this diamond. Like
Yeah.
this is like I could talk myself into something more intense, but I need to drink more nitro pale
Right.
ales
Is this
before I
just
go
like a
any higher.
style that is amazing that I need to tap into or
But I immediately am like, how can I get more of this? And
yeah,
so,
it's like everything I liked about pale ales and then muting some of the stuff that you're
mhm.
not as fond of and replacing it with just this like kind of smooth, creamy like
But not
it was
it's not creamy in like a lactose way, which we've had a lot of
no,
those lactose
right.
milkshake stuff. This
Yeah.
is the way you make the creaminess come through. It's the bubbles. This bubbles are much smaller and they don't pop on your tongue as much. Like that's how you get it.
Yeah, it's creamy and like I just think of it in the nitro stout way. It's like just applied here.
Yeah.
This that was I was not expecting this to be honest. I was expecting to be like, oh, it's weird and I don't like it.
That's
It's
interesting because I thought that I was gonna like it. I thought it was definitely gonna be better, but it exceeded my expectations. So now I didn't want to go all the way up to Mythic, but like
I
I
don't know, but
we're tickling it. Like we're
I
close.
thought
It
about it
feels
at some point. I
I
was like, is this mythic? And I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. That's a bold claim.
it's a
So,
very bold claim, but I like Mythic would probably be it's the best beer at Muskoka, which
right.
I think
Which
you would
obviously we
disagree.
can't
Yeah,
avoid
it's
that.
Major Tom, obviously.
How dare you?
Um,
No, but actually, all I want them to do now is give me Mad Tom on Nitro, so I know what that's like.
I mean, that sounds really good. Mad Tom on Nitro. I know
No, this was great. Well
this is
done,
great.
Muskoka.
Great job.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. Uh,
And you know how sometimes you take the first sip and you're like, oh yeah, and then
Kind of goes away.
eh, or like the opposite, where you're like, whoa, that's I don't know about
Uh,
that, and then it grows on you. This was like, oh yeah, and then it just stayed that way the
yeah.
whole pint or
The
whatever.
only thing that I was upset about is that I didn't have more, you know.
And that they tricked me into having to wait 10 minutes to start drinking it.
That was the other thing because I shook the can and I poured it hard. Like, did
Yeah.
that help the bubbles? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
What
if we
if
didn't do that, it wouldn't have been as tasty.
I have no idea. But diamonds for the Nitro Drifter. Uh, the first time we had this beer,
Okay.
we drank it. We drank it alongside. I think it's important. Actually, let me look this back up. It was
Oh,
episode
right.
107. But we were drinking it next to a blueberry crumble pastry sour
Oh,
on the
okay. I
same
remember
episode.
that one.
Okay, so you really didn't like that one. That
Yes.
yes.
That's why I remember it.
Hmm. And I liked the blueberry one quite a bit.
That doesn't
But we
surprise me.
both landed on the Drifter from Muskoka as platinum. We both thought
Okay.
that was really solid. We liked it a lot.
Gotcha.
So I was expecting us to like this a little bit more. I just didn't know if the Nitro would push it out of platinum if we
Right,
did
all
the
the way to
diamond.
diamond. Yeah.
But we almost went to Mythic with this, buddy. So
Yeah, this one was firmly in diamond and maybe
firmly.
like I think at the same when you vocalized the like I gotta try more pale ales on nitro to know if this is just what they taste like or if this
Hmm.
one is really well done. That's yeah, I think that's it for me. We I almost want to asterisk and like come back and up bump it up to mythic if I try a
Hmm.
few more nitro pale ales and they suck.
Yeah. I might even like if I go out and just like drink this two more times and say, "Oh, it's just I will just get it
And
whenever
both
I see
times
it."
hit just the same. Yeah.
Then I'm just gonna bump it up in my own category. So,
Yeah.
if you can get your pale ales on nitro, do it and drink them because this was awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely diamond, probably mythic.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah. Loved it.
Loved it. All right, Jeff, let's go to closing time. So, folks, if you want to ever talk to us about the beers that you like or things that you want to have nitro gas injected into, you can always find us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
You may also find us on Arena under the username Arena Regulars Podcast. Soon as MH3 drops, we'll be out there rocking rogues.
That's right. We're gonna flare your denial or whatever. Um,
Something.
Something like that. If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at I'm Zulberg on a bunch of different things, but I also stream on Twitch Monday to Thursday, 10 to 2 at regular_Zach. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is on our Discord channel if you want to get access to all of the sweet, sweet deck lists or uh, let's say successful drafts and maybe some not so successful drafts. We post them all there. So
Hmm.
come check it out. I'll be there under regular Jeff. The link to join our Discord is down below in the show notes.
That is right. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. All of those things mean a lot to us, but what means the most is if you would just tell your friends about us. If you like the show, share us with your friends. Hopefully, you can both just enjoy a laugh together at our expense. Probably
Yeah.
my expense, probably more so than anyone else's. But anyway, that just means the most to us. So please give us a listen. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that the Pro Tour has spoken and you got a cut picnic ruiner from your Gruul aggro decks.
Good night. All right, that's fine.